Not a slowdown, not a correction, not even a crash. What's coming is something far more serious, a structural break, a moment where the market stops behaving like a market at all. For the first time in modern British history, the basic process of buying and selling homes is breaking down, not because people don't want homes, but because the system can no longer reconcile reality with illusion. What we're seeing now is the early stage of something irreversible, and once it fully unfolds, there is no going back to the old normal. Before we go any further, if you care about the UK housing market, if you want clear data, honest analysis and no sugarcoating, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is UK Property Report, and every day we break down what's really happening behind the headlines. Liking the video helps more people see it, subscribing keeps you informed, and trust me, what's coming next in this market is something you'll want to stay ahead of. The average UK home now takes over 7 months to sell. That's not a quiet patch, that's paralysis. In London, it takes closer to a year. Properties are sitting there season after season, price cut after price cut, slowly decaying in both value and perception. Nearly 9 out of 10 homes listed never sell at all. They aren't waiting for the right buyer. They are dead listings, zombie properties that exist only on portals, not in reality. Estate agents now privately tell sellers to slash prices by a third or more immediately just to get a single viewing. That is not how functioning markets behave. That is how systems behave right before they snap. The core problem is simple. Buyers and sellers are living in two different worlds. Sellers are mentally anchored to 2021, old valuations, old interest rates, old expectations. Buyers are living in the present. They see what homes are actually selling for. They see forced discounts. They see rising layoffs, tightening credit, and falling confidence. The gap between what sellers want and what buyers will pay has become unbridgeable. Entire chains are collapsing because one link refuses to move. When that happens, transactions stop completely. And when transactions stop, housing doesn't gently adjust, it freezes. Estate agents across the country are reporting months without a single completion. Not fewer deals, 0 deals. Conveyancers are laying off staff, mortgage brokers are shutting their doors, surveyors are sitting idle. When the flow of transactions dries up, the industry that depends on it begins to die in real time. Housing isn't just about homes, it's about movement. And right now, nothing is moving.
Behind the scenes, something far darker is happening. Official repossession numbers appear stable. That's because banks have learned how to hide reality. They've created a quiet exit route for distressed homeowners. It's called voluntary surrender. Instead of repossessing a home through the courts, banks now call borrowers directly. They tell them the truth. Your home is worth less than your mortgage. Your payments have doubled. You're sinking. Then they offer a deal. Hand back the keys quietly. No legal process, no public record, no repossession headline. The debt gets wiped, the homeowner disappears. Tens of thousands of families are doing this every quarter. None of it shows up in the statistics people rely on to judge market health. The effect, however, is exactly the same. Homes are being taken back, families are losing everything. The only difference is that it happens silently. Banks prefer this because visible repossessions would crash confidence overnight, so instead they're managing collapse in the shadows. Internally, banks are preparing for hundreds of thousands of surrendered properties over the next few years. This isn't a trickle, it's a flood being deliberately concealed. At the same time, buyers haven't just stepped back, they've walked away on purpose. First-time buyer inquiries have collapsed compared to pre-pandemic levels. But this isn't because people can't afford to buy. Many can. They simply refuse to. Qualified buyers with large deposits and strong incomes are choosing to wait. They've done the maths. They know that buying now means locking in losses that could take decades to recover. Waiting 2 years could save them hundreds of thousands of pounds. This isn't fear, it's strategy. Online communities have formed around this idea. Buyers share real sold prices, not asking prices. They track reductions. They document forced sales. They warn each other not to catch the falling knife.
The psychology has completely flipped. Buying used to create fear of missing out. Now it creates fear of being the last fool left holding the bag. When people with money refuse to buy, the market isn't correcting, it's staging a coordinated withdrawal. The physical evidence of this breakdown is everywhere. Across the UK, entire developments sit empty, not unfinished, completed, brand new, yet almost no one lives in them. Hundreds of apartments with the lights permanently off. These aren't being withheld for future demand, they're being withheld to protect loan valuations. Developers cannot admit what these properties are actually worth without triggering defaults. Banks cannot force sales without collapsing their own balance sheets. So the buildings sit there, slowly decaying, becoming liabilities rather than assets. In multiple cities, entire estates have become ghost towns. Broken windows, burst pipes, squatters moving in. The occupied units inside these developments are becoming worthless too. Who wants to live in a half-empty block surrounded by neglect? Conservative estimates suggest hundreds of thousands of new homes across the country are sitting completely empty. More homes than the government builds in multiple years combined, rotting in plain sight. This is where it becomes personal. Your pension is inside this market. A massive portion of UK pension assets is tied directly to property, commercial buildings, residential developments, mortgage-backed loans, all of it still valued at prices from years ago. When reality finally gets marked to market, the losses won't be theoretical. Even a moderate revaluation wipes out hundreds of billions of pounds in retirement wealth. That's why pension funds are already freezing withdrawals and restricting access. They know what's coming. When funds stop letting you touch your own money, it's because the money isn't really there anymore. International capital has already figured this out. Foreign investors aren't reducing exposure, they're fleeing. Sovereign wealth funds have dumped billions in UK property, accepting enormous losses just to get out. Chinese investment has collapsed almost entirely. Middle Eastern funds are quietly selling landmark assets. But the most alarming part isn't that they're leaving, it's that many are actively betting against the UK housing market, shorting it, profiting from its decline. When global capital declares your property market uninvestable, the game is over. This collapse doesn't stop at housing. 2 million UK jobs depend on property transactions. Estate agents, solicitors, surveyors, mortgage brokers, builders, decorators, removals, retail. When housing freezes, these jobs disappear. Thousands of estate agencies have already closed. Tens of thousands of jobs are gone. The multiplier effect is brutal. When people don't move, they don't buy furniture. They don't renovate. They don't upgrade appliances. Entire sectors begin to contract at once. This is how housing crises turn into depressions. Job losses lead to defaults. Defaults lead to forced sales. Forced sales push prices down further. Lower prices freeze transactions even more. The loop feeds itself. And the government knows this. Internal contingency plans already assume homelessness on a scale never seen before. Emergency housing measures, forced use of empty properties, suspension of normal property rights, preparation for unrest in major cities when repossessions peak. They're not planning to stop it, they're planning to contain it. And this is before demographics even enter the picture. UK birth rates have collapsed. Young people aren't delaying families, they're abandoning the idea altogether. No home means no children. No children means no future buyers. At the same time, millions of older homeowners will pass away over the next decade. Their properties will flood the market. Who buys them? Not their children. They can't afford them. Not young families. They don't exist in sufficient numbers. This isn't cyclical oversupply, it's permanent demographic imbalance. Immigration was supposed to save the system. That narrative is ending. Migration patterns are unstable. Political pressure is rising. Even when people arrive, housing supply is mismatched. Immigration doesn't fix broken systems, it exposes them. You cannot build a housing market on a population you're actively discouraging while refusing to build where demand actually exists. At the core of all this is land. The UK does not suffer from a lack of space, it suffers from monopoly control. A tiny fraction of the population owns the majority of the land. Planning permission multiplies land value overnight, yet that value is captured privately, not publicly. Major developers sit on vast land banks, releasing homes slowly to maintain prices. This isn't inefficiency, it's design. Planning itself is structured to fail. Applications cost fortunes before a single brick is laid. Objections are weaponized by professional blockers. Councils profit from the delay. Developers with deep pockets win. Affordable housing loses. The system rewards scarcity. It punishes supply. It always has. Policies that were meant to help made things worse. Right to buy transferred hundreds of billions in public assets into private hands without replacement. Help to buy inflated prices while trapping buyers in negative equity. Buy to let turned homes into financial weapons. The tax system subsidized landlords while punishing ownership. Leasehold trapped millions in modern feudal contracts. Second homes hollowed out communities. None of this was accidental. It was cumulative. The political class is deeply invested. A huge proportion of MPs are landlords. They vote on housing policy while owning the assets affected by it. Planning reform fails not because it's complex, but because it threatens existing wealth. The system doesn't break because no one knows how to fix it. It persists because too many powerful people profit from it. Systems don't decline slowly forever. They hit tipping points. The UK has passed them all. Average earners can't buy average homes. Renting costs more than owning, but deposits are unreachable. Emigration has become rational for the young. Housing values have detached completely from economic output. When housing becomes larger than the economy that supports it, collapse is inevitable.
What replaces this system isn't reform, it's consolidation. Corporate ownership. Global asset managers are raising vast sums to buy after the collapse, not to sell homes, but to rent them back. Housing becomes a subscription. Algorithms set rents. Software decides evictions. Ownership disappears. Access replaces rights. The government supports this because someone must house people after the collapse, and corporations are willing to do it in exchange for power and profit. This is the end of the UK housing market as people understood it. The illusion of value is dissolving. If you own property, the number you believe in may not exist. If you're trying to buy, understand this unwind has years left. If you rent, prepare for tighter control, not relief. This isn't a crash anymore, it's market failure. The basic mechanism of buying and selling homes has stopped working. What comes next will not be democratic, it will not be local, and it will not include widespread ownership. This is historic. This is irreversible. This is what happens when a country chooses asset inflation over its future. The ladder wasn't just pulled up, it was dismantled, and the consequences are only just beginning.